Thanks for joining, guys. We'll start a little bit. Hi, sir. Welcome. Sir Rohit Pandharkar, sir, is here with us. And so has Kaustubh Pandharkar, sir, joined in. Great. So we've been knowing about how tech innovation waves are really changing everything in the world. Yeah, so the entire landscape is getting changed. And it was Kaustubh sir's idea that we get started with RedX Cafe again. And here we have our first speaker, that is Rohit Pandharkar sir. He is speaking to us from Singapore. And today we'll be talking about tech innovations and effects on career paths. Welcome to the online students and offline students who are here in person. Kaustubh sir, would you want to say a few words before we get started?
I won't come in between Rohit and the students. So, folks, Rohit is a great mind in this space. So, listen with rapt attention and ask as many questions as possible. Over to you, Sonal.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm going to speak a little bit about Rohit Pandharkar, sir. As of now, he is heading data in circles.life. Okay, and we school has had a long association with him right from his MIT Media Lab days. He holds a master's degree in technology from MIT Media Lab at Cambridge. He holds several US patents and international publications in the area of AI, computational imaging, signal processing, cryptography. He has also been an invited reviewer at international journals and conferences like ACM SIGGRAPH, Asia, IEEE CVPR, ICCP, and many others. And of course, he has been a TEDx speaker as well. Previously, he headed data science at the Group Strategy Office of Mahindra Group. At Mahindra, he built the group-wide data science team and worked with financial services, that is auto loans, car leasing, home loans, mutual funds, insurance investments, automotive manufacturing, and a lot of others. Prior to that, he also led APAC area for Google venture-funded company Headspin, which is an AI-based platform for mobile performance. Okay, he has got many awards. One of them is Data Science Professional of the Year 2019 award, Data Science and Government Summit and Awards India. He was chosen among industry data science leaders and peers from BFSI, media, FMCG, pharma, and manufacturing sectors. He has also won Mahindra Innovation Awards in 2013, a Platinum Award. Okay, 2012 also the Platinum Award for Product Innovation. And this was across 10 sectors at Mahindra Group. His experience before OLX immediately was with Mahindra. However, it is really interesting to know about his profile at OLX Autos as a global head of data science from November 2021 to 2023. So I think most of us know about OLX Autos. It is a NASPA's process company that focuses on used car sales and auto finance in multiple international markets. There he was heading data science, data engineering, and BI for OLX Autos globally. Prior to that, he worked with Mahindra Rise as head of data science. And even before that at ISO, which is International Organization for Standardization, right, which is from 2018 to 2018. And then as Headspin, in Headspin, he worked as a vice president APAC for about 2 years, right? So there were a lot of funded projects that he worked on there. He worked with Mahindra partners, and it is a huge list of projects that he's worked on. With We School, we have a very long-standing association with us. He has been a great part of the extended family of We School, guiding us with many innovative projects, including at RedX. So he also helps us mentor. By mentoring the projects, he helps us figure out what are the lacunae, where can we take them ahead. And he has been a great support to our Professor Dr. Uday Sarunke. And I don't think anything about innovation or tech goes without a mention of Rohit. So whenever we are talking about tech and innovation, be it Kaustubh sir, or be it Uday Sarunke sir, or be it the WRC team, I can see Vaishali ma'am has also joined in. Hi, ma'am. Welcome to this session. So, Rohit, shall we get started?
Yes, yes, we can go ahead. Thank you for the generous introduction.
Sure. So, a few days back, you mentioned that staying relevant and reinventing your career, okay, be it us at our age or be it the students or the ones who are just getting started or a few months or years into their careers, you mentioned that every 7 years or so, one has to reinvent your career. So, this matters really hugely for today's workforce. Please, could you share your thoughts about this?
Yeah. So first of all, these are not my words. This I picked it up from Naval Ravikant. There's a recent book based on Naval Ravikant called Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I would highly encourage you guys to read that book. Naval Ravikant is a very successful investor and entrepreneur in the US, and he says that you have to reinvent yourself every few years in career, right? And let me explain how, though, from the context that I have seen. Uh, when I started with my career and entered the professional commercial life, uh, there was this talk of SMAC. Okay, SMAC is basically social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. SMAC. And everybody was saying social is the next big thing, and Facebook and Twitter and maybe TikTok wasn't even around then. It's funny how everything is changing so fast, and now we have Threads app, right? Which is another clone of Twitter by Facebook, and everybody was talking about social media at that time, back in early 2010s, and this Mac was the theme of the time, and this has been changing over a period. Uh, Today we are talking about Beaver. Okay, Beaver is BIVAR. It's blockchain, IoT, VR, AI, and robotics. So the jargon changes, the technology keeps changing. What I feel one has to do is uh, accommodate one's own career and ride the waves. Right, there was this social media wave. There was a time when newly jobs like a community manager or a social media manager was a new job title coming up. Today, in between, then there was programmatic ad buying, right? Initially, it was just managing the social media profiles, then it was programmatic ad buying, and today we are talking about generative AI in marketing. So the waves keep changing, but depending on which year you are in and which phase of career you are in, you have to change what you're targeting for as a career role. If you try to do social media community management today, you will be out of date, right? Also, at the same time, it's true that programmatic ad buying and today's generative AI wasn't even around maybe 15 years ago. So uh, you have to, at every stage of life, think of what is the latest technology wave, where the new jobs or new titles are getting created, and just zone in on those hotspots where the greatest career growth lies, as well as the money also lies, by the way. People who have ridden those waves have done exceptionally well in their careers, and they would get to have experience of the next best thing. And towards the end of this question, what I would say is, if you align yourself with the digital transformation office, since you are all business school students, if you align yourself with the digital transformation office of every company, see what the digital transformation offices are doing, and just orient yourself to do that. And if you do it well, you will end up picking and riding the wave.
Sure. Thanks a ton. Thanks a ton for explaining that. Um, in the meanwhile, that I move to the second question, I might also want to tell the audience that everybody who is here can also ask questions. Okay, we are open to taking questions live if you have your mic working with you, and you can also type in the chat. So that's also open. Right. In the meanwhile, I'm going ahead with the second question, that is, the digital change that the society is undergoing is now getting driven by AI. And who better to answer this question than yourself, who is leading a great change in AI through various things like what you're doing with Mahindra that you did earlier, or you're doing with many projects that I know of. So, how should management graduates across all streams, right, need not be pure tech, need not be students, how should they keep themselves abreast, you think, Rohit?
Yeah. So again, I would like to refer to another leading figure of today, Elon Musk. He was asked this question by someone, and actually he was asked, "How do you keep up with all this technology?" Right. At one time, he's doing rocket science, building SpaceX. He is revolutionizing electric vehicles. He is starting to do generative AI as well. He just recently announced the XAI company. He was the early backer of OpenAI as well. And if all this is happening, how does he keep abreast with all the new technologies and new knowledge? And he says, I go by first principles. What is first principles way of knowing things? It is go and look at the knowledge as a tree and start from the top and start going through the leaf nodes. If you understand the leaf nodes, start digging through them. For example, everyone knows that generative AI is very big, right? But how do you really study and keep yourself abreast of it? Is one example I would give is first understand what is generative AI. Then you should start playing the 20 questions game, right? What is 20 questions game? Ask yourself, so what, or how, or why. If you ask, okay, world is changing because of generative AI. Next question would be, why is it so? Okay, if you answer that question, you may say, but why is it so that generative AI is so good? Why did it occur now, right? Why was ChatGPT so powerful that it garnered like 100 million plus users within a few months? If you start asking these deeper questions and start going through why and why, you will go to something like, okay, because reinforcement learning and transformers happened in deep learning. Then you ask yourself, but why? Then you go back to deep learning, and then you go back to the basics of machine learning, right? This is how you traverse the tree, and you understand, okay, because machine learning chips became cheaper and highly computationally efficient, and there were some algorithms invented in deep learning, and then reinforcement learning through human feedback, RLHF happened, etc. So generative AI is happening. So you should know all this thread of leaves in the tree that you traverse, and ask yourself, which of these things I need to learn. Now, as an MBA student, you may not need to learn reinforcement learning basics, right? But you need to know how this is going to change the business models and business say profitability. For example, I believe that there will be a lot of companies that will come up now which are single person startups because of generative AI. For example, someone may sit and just do a startup in uh, doing the precedents or summarization for legal precedents of cases for advocates, right? And a single person who is not even great at coding, using low code or no code platforms, be able to build this kind of a startup that using AI gives advice to advocates on precedents of a case, which means if there is a case on a certain topic, read 100 other cases relevant to that, summarize them, figure out the probabilities of who won what case, and give recommendations on how the argument should be structured. Now, that is what is happening. And for you as a business student, you knowing generative AI is doing a lot is not enough. Knowing which business models will come up, how it will impact the cost structure of a startup or any organization is also key. So you should be able to envisage that, hey, there are going to be these smaller companies that will mushroom, which have access to the same democratic models or AI, which will be able to compete with enterprises or large, lawyer firms with lesser money and better quality of service. This is what you should be able to look at. So two things to summarize the answer. One is know the knowledge of tree, go through the first principles and understand the tree of knowledge, and go through the leaf nodes, figure out what thing you need to learn. You don't have to learn everything. If you know every leaf node and just by and large understand what this leaf node does, that is how Elon Musk also studies different things, right? I read a nice book by Elon Musk on the Tesla revolution, and in that book the author says that Musk wanted to sell a rocket to Russians, right? And Russians sent him back saying, "You don't know anything about rocket science. We have been doing space research for so many years, and sort of gave him a strong feedback that he doesn't know enough. This guy goes back and reads rocket science books over 2 weeks and becomes an expert in rocket science in that period. Of course, not everyone will be able to match that kind of intensity. But what I'm saying is, if he can study this, he didn't do an undergrad degree in rocket science, right? Nor did he do a master's or PhD in specifically sending rockets to space. But why is he able to do that? Is because he follows this first principle technique to learn. Another thing I would add here is, how do you keep yourself abreast of things other than books, right? Books are a long form technique, by the way, but short form techniques like podcasts, YouTube videos, TED Talks, etc. Or are you subscribed to the right channels, right? Hacker News, TechCrunch, etc. also matters. I don't know how many of you read Hacker News. Even though you are MBA students, I think you should be reading Hacker News at least once a month, because all the new things that are going to come up 4 or 5 years later are discussed today on Hacker News, saying this is happening, this is the latest technological innovation, etc. Right? So you have to have your sensors. This is how VCs, venture capitalists, by the way, track where the world is going and where to invest money. So if you want to invest for your career, you can also do similar things to track where the wave is going. Going back to the earlier answer I gave, which is how to ride the waves for your career. For that to happen, you need to know the wave, why it is happening, and where it is creating impact.
I like the part where you've told us how to ride the wave, especially after knowing which wave you want to ride. So, yeah, Elon Musk has to be given his credit for the way he manages his various businesses. Sure. So, moving to the next question, many non-coders we see, whether it is a student who is getting into PGDM, the core program, or even the RBA program, or they are getting into BD program. Nowadays, everybody wants to be a part of AI, but non-coders fear the AI wave. Is there really a cause of concern for this, given mushrooming of different low-code, no-code platforms for data analytics? So should they embrace coding, or is it okay not to really know coding, given the fact that low-code, no-code platforms are available easily?
Yeah, actually, I think there is no need to fear the AI revolution or low code or no code things that are coming up, because I'll tell you an interesting anecdote. When I was studying at MIT, somebody played a prank one day and said, so the thing at MIT is the media lab, which is the all the hackers and engineers place in MIT is on one side of the street, and on the other side of street is MIT Sloan, which is the business school of MIT. So somebody placed a placard on the street pointing towards Sloan saying humans here, right? As if the engineers are non-humans and they are some alien animals who are nerdy and who are all the time coding and understanding tech. And there was a joke at Media Lab, on the other hand, where we said we used to get emails because we were the engineering people, right? We used to get emails from the Sloan people saying they want to do a startup and they are looking for some coders who can help them create an early prototype. And those emails were so many in number that we were like, what do these Sloan people think? They can't build anything themselves. They just want to get a intern from Media Lab to build an early prototype every time. And there would be like, say, 40 to 50 emails in a year that people will laugh at on the other end. But what has low code or no code done is actually it has changed the whole fabric of who does what in a startup, right? And how much is the importance of an engineer. For example, the business school students can create a new venture out of nothing without having to know much of code, or just have one or two early technological partners who can do the job of 30 to 40 people team. So the hurdles or the barriers to create new startups has come down significantly, and the business people no longer remain business people. They can literally, if you can write English, you can literally go and type, create a website for e-commerce that has following things, and just dictate like you dictate to a person, and the AI will start building that website, right? That is where we are today. Already there are such tools available. So what I'm saying is, it is a benefit to the business students that you can either do it yourself, or use only a few engineers, 1 or 2 people, to do the job of 30 to 40 people team, and reduce that barrier to be able to move forward at a rapid pace. Not just that, it also has implications on funding requirements, because you can bootstrap a venture without really having to hire a lot of people. And there was this concept of 10x coders or a unicorn data scientist, right? What is a unicorn data scientist? Like a really top notch guy who has like a PhD from Stanford or MIT, and is able to do the job of what 10 engineers would do in 10 months in 1 month, right? That's a 10x coder or a 10x engineer. And there was always a search for such people by Amazon, Apple, Google, and so on, all the FANG companies. But now what people are saying is the 10x engineer's job can actually be done by a 1x engineer also, because he is aided by Copilot, which is the coding assistant, which improves his ability to code, the speed of code, as well as the depth of code as well. So all these changes are happening as we speak, and it's just amazing that we are living in a world where so much is changing so fast that someone can take benefit of it. Uh, there's my MIT friend who works at Salesforce, who was telling me recently that he's just planning to leave a company like Salesforce, which is a large $100 billion plus organization, to do a single person startup. I'll talk about that a bit later, but that's what is happening, right? A lot of people are able to take that leap of faith and build something new. And this is going to be David versus Goliath, right? All the big companies who are relatively slow at innovation are going to get attacked by this rapidly evolving single person startup concept.
Sure. What a wonderful way of answering and also motivating students and everybody to be able to take up AI and use it even for their organization as entrepreneurs and also move it to entrepreneurs. Right. So moving ahead to the next question, we have some retail students also joining in. So, or for the retail industry, all of those who are looking at careers in retail industry, how do you think is AI going to change the required skill sets for the aspirants of retail industry?
Yeah. So you pick any sector. For now, let's talk about retail. The goal is using data as an asset on the balance sheet, right? When you have data as an asset on the balance sheet, which is what is happening today, think of Reliance Geo or DMart or erstwhile Big Bazaar, etc., the large retail chains, or even the brand chains, right? Like, let's say a luxury brand or a cosmetic brand like L'Oreal trying to sell things in India. Today, you have to know what is happening, why it is happening, what will happen in the future, and what should I do to make it happen or not make something happen, right? So I always talk about descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive, right? That's what AI is trying to do for retail as well, which means where am I getting my buyers from? How long do they spend time in my store? How do they walk? By the way, there are retailers in the US who track through infrared cameras what is the footprint of the buyers inside a large format retail store, and actually look at hotspots. Where do people stop maximum time? Where do people spend least of the time? How long do they spend in the store overall? What do they buy first? What do they buy last? uh, what is the average time spent in an aisle? And depending on that, can you rearrange the things inside a retail store? And you may say this is basic analytics, right? But earlier it was super hard to do. Now with AI, you can just get all of this done in an automated manner. And think of it like this: every month at the beginning, the AI gives you a recipe of how to organize the retail store, what is to be done as recommendations, right? um, uh, Oftentimes we talk about milk and bread being placed in certain manner in a retail store, but that's like folklore now. It's old story. Now we are doing things to the level where uh, personalized to that individual who has walked into the store. His ID can be recognized from his mobile phone. If you have seen Amazon Go pilots that Amazon ran, They can actually track what is in your basket, what did you in a physical store, by the way, what did you pick from the shelf, what did you keep back in the shelf and not buy, you considered buying but did not buy, just like an e-commerce store, right? So this phygital concept of converting all the analytics on e-commerce into the physical retail is also happening. Then there are other things happening as well, right? In terms of prescriptive retail AI, you would be uh, given products in the physical store as well as in the virtual e-commerce store that are like the Netflix movie recommendations, and we are all experiencing that on Amazon and Flipkart and so on. But we will go to a next level where there are anticipatory shipments that Amazon is doing, which means if you are just browsing something on a e-commerce page, an anticipatory shipment is started at Amazon saying that there is a 95% probability that this guy is going to buy something, and hence we should be able to start packing this item, and Amazon has a patent on it, right? So this is how things are changing now. How should the business students relate with it, right? Does that mean you have to study AI yourself and be able to do this? No, of course not. You have to manage these things, right? So I'll tell you what one of my friend at Amazon is doing. He's a technical program manager at he's an MBA, of course, but he's a program manager at Alexa, right? So what is he doing in retail? He is building retail SDKs for Amazon Alexa, where say a Walmart store or say a Toys R Us, a toy store, or let's say a Office Depot can have a SDK integrated with Alexa, where somebody can order things and interact with Alexa from home, and that is customized through customer service, including inventory planning and everything through the voice channel. Now, this is what the new jobs in AI for business students look like, right? For retail, are we prepared for that? What skills do we need for being able to do that? And he was telling me that he actually had to learn, how to include empathy in an AI voice bot, because Alexa has to be very empathetic towards someone who is trying to buy something on voice channel, right? So there are totally different skill sets required as to how do you include empathy in user experience in a voice channel completely dictated by AI. This has not happened before. This is not like a 10-year-old field, right? It's a new field that is coming up and nobody knows how to do it right. So you can either hire someone who is experienced for 20 years in retail or get a fresh graduate, and both of them will be still struggling with doing the same new thing because nobody has experience of having done it before. And perhaps the new graduate straight out of business school will be able to do a better job at it because he's used to adopting newer things. So how quickly you adopt these new challenges will define how well you can do in these roles.
Right, lovely. Really up to date example. So, I think many of us are listening to this for the first time about empathy in voice channels. Thank you for that example there. If we were to move to healthcare, so yeah, tech innovations are a big enabler, be it wearables, robotic surgery, or we are talking about nanobot meds, which reach every part of the human body, right? So, how are healthcare management students, okay, who are not completely tech savvy, they are just helping management of healthcare facilities, okay, to upskills themselves to be able to embrace tech innovations in healthcare.
Mhm. So before we go there, I want to emphasize how healthcare is changing with technology, right? We first need to know where the money lies, because that's where business students will be deployed
Sure.
to do different roles. So I want to give an example of this company from US called Livongo, which does personalized health management, right? And it was acquired in 2020 by another large company called Teladoc for $18 billion. Okay, in 2020, just at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. What Teladoc does is it's a remote healthcare management firm, which is basically a doctor or a healthcare expert being able to advise you completely over video calls or remotely by also sensing the patient's parameters and metrics through remote devices. And this company acquired Livongo because Livongo was really good at doing personalized healthcare through data of patients, especially things like glucose tracking, sugar tracking, and so on, right? Diabetes control. India also is seeing some such companies like Ultrahuman. Many of you have heard of it. So if you see what is happening is the healthcare industry is shifting from the traditional hospital-based treatments to different channels and ways of treating people and even diagnosing the disease conditions. And how do you capture the business through this new distribution mechanism, as well as revenue mechanisms and business models, is something that students first need to learn. If you were to go to Apollo hospitals or Apollo pharmacies versus working at Livongo as a business student, these two are totally different things. And if you were to, let's say, actually work for a new age company in healthcare, you need to be able to be aware of what the new business models are coming up, and do the product management there, do the say business planning there, and do the strategy there. For this, it is important that you are aware of how the new age models are being built.
Thank you about the examples, Ultra Human as well as Livongo being taken up by Teladoc, right? Okay. So for management graduates looking at their own startups, you had also referred to a person who wanted to build his own AI company using ChatGPT. So whether it is startups using ChatGPT or other products, right? How can aspiring entrepreneurs use the AI tech innovation waves in an innovative manner to build their startups?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, there's a friend of mine from MIT who is building a new generative AI startup. I'll explain in little more detail as an example what these interesting startups can be like, right? So, what he's doing is he is gonna plan to help luxury brands like say Gucci or Gap or any other brands which are trying to do performance marketing as well as creation of new media creatives. He is saying that he can replace the agency or work with the agency to do all the creatives, and not just by using something like Midjourney, but an equivalent of Midjourney where the brand people can give the narrative and it creates the creatives automatically by itself, but doesn't stop there. It creates all these new marketing creatives and automatically tries them out through AI channels in reinforcement learning, through say Chrome browser, Safari browser, iOS devices, Android devices, morning time, evening time, and so on. And by testing out all of these things, it tells you which creative works where, at what time, for which people, whether it's male or female, age group of less than 30 or greater than 30, and so on. And automatically zeroes down on the marketing spend that reduces your customer acquisition cost. Not just that, it also then later tracks your spends and tries to estimate the lifetime customer value. So what different entities were doing so far, which is, there will be a brand marketing manager, then there'll be a media planner, there'll be a media agency, performance marketing agency, then Google programmatic ad buying. So many people coming together, being able to do that marketing for, let's say, digital marketing for a luxury brand is now possible to be done by a single firm that will optimize it on steroids using AI to be able to give best customer acquisition cost, and not just that, also optimize on higher lifetime value. And he already has been running pilots with several companies. The company is in stealth mode so far, so I can't talk more about it. But imagine a single company being given, it's literally like this: hey, I want to sell Patagonia jackets, right? And here is $2 million of digital spend. Give me maximum customers that you can acquire, paying customers that you can through the digital channels, and make sure that my customer acquisition cost becomes 1/3 of what it is today. And this startup or this kind of a technology company can practically do that without having to have a separate media buying agency, a separate media manager, brand manager, strategist, and so on, and still be able to perform much better. And this is the revolution happening in e-commerce and retail. I'm sure it will spill over in other areas as well.
Right. So there are a few students who also want to ask questions, but I will just ask you quickly three questions. Right. Some people fear tech, since few experts believe that in 50%, there's a 50% possibility that AI could surpass humans. I have also heard in your lectures when you speak about singularity, so which will automate every profession perhaps. So some people fear in the next 100 years, all the professions will get automated. So although most of the work, some other experts say, would be performed by a mix of artificial and human intelligence, which is hybrid technology, how should we, the common people, cope with such fears?
I feel, you know, if even if, let's say, singularity happens, I am part of the optimists who think that it will only be positive for us and help us live a better life. Because if there are no humans to help for AI, what would be the fundamental reason for existence of AI, right? Like, it'll be like a simulation game otherwise. It's like there are just too many characters and too many players there, but it's all rule driven, and they may not have consciousness and no reason or purpose to exist otherwise. Secondly, as of today, where we stand is the hybrid mode of doing things with AI and human intelligence works the best. Because I always refer to this company called Palantir. Palantir is the company that helps US defense and US intelligence track down multiple things like hawala transactions, international financing, any suspicious movements, human trafficking, and all these things, right? That all the crime that can be tracked at an international level using data. And while they have best of the AI tools available, their biggest achievements have been only when humans partnered with AI to take certain decisions, right? And for example, when Osama bin Laden was captured, the hawala transactions were happening from a certain location and they were tracked. But what was not connected to the location where he was staying was actually detected by a spy on the ground, who realized that there was a guy who was a dentist and he was visiting a 20 feet tall compound all the time, and his account was getting a lot of hawala transactions. So data was only showing that there are all these transactions coming, but a human spy on the ground was able to tell that this guy who is getting all this money is visiting this 20 feet tall compound, and he actually was a treasurer in disguise for the outfits. So that is the connecting the dots between what data is showing you and what physical on ground intelligence is can only happen when the two things are combined. And I think that's the greatest example of why data alone cannot help us, right? It has to be matched with second order thinking. So I also would like to recommend this book by Adam Grant called Think Again. He's a Wharton professor and a prolific writer, who says that basically the think again concept is, can you step out of the situation and think again about it and come up with some contra strategies that data so far has never shown. See, machine learning is all about learning from the history, right? If you let the computer play a lot of chess, it will come up with strategies to play chess based on historical games that have been played. Now you may say ChatGPT writes poetry, right? But you know what? ChatGPT writes poetry based on what poetry it has read so far and what it thinks of poetry and what it knows about poetry. So AI is often learning from data currently in the world and what has already been created. But humans have this unique ability to create what has never existed, right? That is the core creativity principle. For example, if you have never seen before like a black swan strategy, the example that Adam Grant gives in his book is, in 1970s there were these firefighters in America who had to fight the forest fires. Okay, and once they had been put on a mountain, a team of 20 people had gone to a mountain to douse a forest fire, and they realized that they can't really control the forest fire, right? So they had to run away from the situation because they could not douse the fire. So what everybody did was they had a lot of weight on their in their sacks, and they wanted to run away from the fire. And the leader of that pack actually realized that you can't outrun the fire because it was spreading so fast. So you know what he did? He actually lit fire around himself. And that was a contra thing to do, right? When you are trying to run away from fire, why are you creating fire around yourself? But the logic was that he will create a gap between himself, like he will create a burnt out circle where he will lie down, and the rest of the fire will go around him, because whatever was around him within the whatever 20 feet radius of his area of where he was standing was already burnt, right? So
Right.
fire cannot touch him. So that is think again principle, right? That is something that is very hard for AI to come up with. And human beings in times of stress, in times of a very emotional life and death situation, can think of some strategies like these that is yet to be seen to be created by AI.
Wow, what a beautiful example from Adam Grant's book, Think Again. Yeah. Not let the fire reach you by burning things around you. Wonderful. Thank you for that. So this also brings, about business design or design thinking, and many of our students have joined from that program. And so, how should design thinking students who are very novel about the solutions to their programs, right? So, how should they work about the effect of tech on career for them?
So I think we are living in times where, as I said a little earlier as well, the distribution channels are going to be different. The technologies used to deliver products are going to be different. The requirements of these products design will be different. For I'll give an example. Think of Apple Vision Pro, right? The VR solution to be able to do something. Let's say you are using VR to uh, you know plan a tour. Let's just think of a very very oddball situation. In such a case, let's say if a company like Make My Trip wants to implement VR, you have to, through design thinking, you have to imagine what the experience of a VR tool is going to be for a person who is thinking of making a trip for different purposes, right? So how do you design the user experience for a different distribution channel like virtual reality, right? To deliver that product experience. And people have done this through e-commerce. People have done it in physical world through stores, then websites, through mobile apps. But now there'll be a different channel like virtual reality. How will you handle it? Another example I gave was empathy through AI, right? How do you design that experience, the user experience, where you can't control what the AI does, right? Multiple guardrails to be designed as well, right? So in design thinking, you have to think of multiple things like how the product can go wrong, how the experience can go wrong. Microsoft launched a Taybot recently, several years ago. But what happened was, it was supposed to learn from tweets that were happening around on Twitter. And they launched it with a lot of fanfare and said, okay, you can teach this bot to get better, and it will be something like a chat GPT, but in earlier years. But what happened was, within 8 hours of the chatbot being launched, people taught it all the cuss words and all the wrong words, and it started learning all the bad things in the world, right? And it started spitting out tweets in a really bad language. So these guardrails, these design experiences have to be also thought of when we are dealing with new technologies. Like, how can things go wrong? How can you make it better, like adding empathy? How can you make people adopt a new channel like VR? Or how can you even think of use cases that can have biggest impact through business models, right? A great example where business model design has gone wrong is distributed ledger or blockchain. Everybody thought it's going to be the next big thing, but it hasn't really been able to create a business model or a business design that lets people benefit from it to the core. Of course, now people are coming up with financial use cases, etc., and cryptocurrency is another one. But beyond that, this hasn't really seen a business design that brings money. So these are the kind of things new graduates will have to think of, which is, if I have a new channel, if I have a new technology, if I have a new experience, how do I put guardrails? How do I ensure that these things create new profitability models for us? And that's what, the new entrepreneurs have done so far. Like if you look at Airbnb or Uber, these asset light models are actually a great example of amazing business design.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. I would love for us to have a session by you on blockchain separately. So why is it not delivered its promise and things? But because of lack of time today, I'll move to the last question from my end, which is, please could you share your success story as an innovative tech leader? So what are the
Well,
do's, don'ts?
it's very hard to speak about oneself. So let me add that caveat that I don't want to talk about what has gone well and what hasn't gone well. But I'll just give a few connecting the dots picture as to what decisions led to something good for me, right? And hopefully the students will be able to get inspired from it. Simple decisions that can have a large cascading impact can change your life story, right? For example, when I was going to US for studying graduate school, uh, interestingly, I had admission from Stanford for management science, so like a business degree, and from MIT for completely technology oriented degree. And I chose the technology degree at that time because I thought that it's more suited to my personality. But that led to riding of the technology waves later on. And for example, when I ran into Anand Mahindra, and he offered an open invitation to join any business in the group. So
Wow.
I had this question of which group to join, which business to join within Mahindra, and I chose the mobile business, by the way. So if you see my career trajectory, I started back in 2010 in mobile VAS business, because that time I thought value added services in mobile and smartphones is going to explode, and I want to ride that wave. So I actually joined a mobile VAS business. That's how I started, right? After that, I joined the solar business of Mahindra, because around 2014, solar and clean tech was the wave. It was the government had just come up with the national solar mission. Government had said that we will build 100 gigawatt of solar power. And by the way, guys, today India has already crossed 100 gigawatt of solar power. But that time, when I was choosing the career in solar energy, India didn't even have 1 gigawatt of solar power. Okay. So what I'm saying is, you should be able to see that where the 100x growth is going to be, right? 2010 smartphones were all rage because iPhone had just been launched, and the concept of mobile apps was coming up, and you would be able to build so many new things, new business models through mobile apps was visible. So I chose mobile apps and smartphones as the area. Then in 2014, I chose solar as the area, right? I did well there. And in 2016-17, I realized that deep learning is really taking over the world. And I literally remember writing in my journal, in my diary, that कुछ भी करके ये deep learning में घुसना है. That's literally what I told myself. And I studied deep learning on my own, because, by the way, I graduated from MIT around 2011, and deep learning became popular only around 2014-15, by the way, right? So it's not like I studied deep learning at MIT, but I learned it on my own and positioned myself to lead data science and build a career in data. And ever since then, I realized that AI is a long wave, right? So since 2016, I have been doing AI, but within that, I'll tell you, how I planned or designed the career is that I realized that I want to try out multiple sectors for AI, right? So I have done financial services with data science, right? I built credit scoring models for a financial services company. I did analytics and data science for insurance, mutual funds, home loans, auto loans. I did all that. Then I did AI for hotels and hospitality, which is how do you recommend the next best experience to, say, Club Mahindra customers, right? So I got experience from that sector as well. Then I did e-commerce in OLX Autos, which is how do you do pricing of cars, right, of second-hand cars, or how do you give recommendations on at what price the car should be bought or sold, how to do recommendation engines for e-commerce portals, and even fraud detection or predicting the traffic or predicting the demand and supply, right? Inventory planning. So I did all that in e-commerce. And then recently I am now in telco space where we are doing AI and data science for telecom industry. So what I did was, once I found the long wave, which is AI, I said I want to touch multiple sectors, and I was fortunate enough to do that by joining automotive, financial, hotels and hospitality, e-commerce, and telco, etc. sectors. And I realized that there is horizontals and verticals, right? You have to think of horizontals that you can touch. Horizontals are sectors like telco, e-commerce, finance, retail, etc. Right? And verticals are data engineering, data science, business intelligence, etc. for me. So these are the verticals. You have to have a T-shaped profile nowadays, right? What is a T-shaped profile? You have a horizontal spread as well as vertical spread. You know your depth. If somebody gets into a discussion with you really on technical details or whatever jargon they want to talk about, you should be able to do the jugalbandi, right? You should be able to talk about it, but at the same time you should have enough exposure to the horizontal sectors as well, and not be called someone who has done just one thing all through several decades. That is also great, by the way. Being a specialist is great, but it's all about what you want to choose. And these are some personal choices I made that I'm enjoying. I won't say it has led to success. It's a moderate success in my view, but there's a lot more to do, right? You can't judge a career trajectory in 10 years or 20 years. You have a 40-year long career, and the compounding improves, right? As you go deeper into your career, the net increments or benefits of earlier experience and your strategies start playing out bigger impact and bigger benefits as you go towards the latter part of your career, when the compounding effect starts taking place. So I hope that journey or the decision points and how I thought about my career will help you plan your own as well. And as I said, everyone has his own story, right? Your interest might be different than mine. Your skills might be different than mine. But the way to think about it is something that I feel is something I have learned from different people. And again, another book I would like to recommend is Catalyst. This is a book about how to plan your career and how to navigate through the career roles over a 30-40 year long period. Someone who has spent a lot of time in HR has written this book. So I don't remember the author, but you should definitely read this book called Catalyst, which is amazing. That led me to think differently about my career. And since you guys are just about to start your career after the business school, it would be highly useful for you to read this Catalyst book.
Sure. Thank you for that answer. And you have miles to go. I would say, just getting started, the peak of your career. Rishabh has a question for you. Rishabh Arora. Tanmay, can you give him rights to speak? Yeah, sure. Are you able to?
Good evening, sir. Thank you for such an insightful session. So I have a question. As the AI is getting stronger year after year, so we managed to talk about different fields in which AI can have a big impact on. But sir, in the field of consulting, do you think that it can ever make a drastic impact, or it will be in the future? It will be a collaborative approach, or humans will always have an upper hand in it. So, what's your
So
view?
consulting is an interesting industry, right? It's in the business of giving advice, and
Yes.
especially business advice. And I think already the consulting firms are lapping up AI like anything, right? There are two parts to your question. I think one is how existing consulting firms can use AI, and second is, can AI disrupt consulting itself, right? So let's first talk about the part A, which is how can existing consulting firms embrace AI. As I said, that is happening, right? McKinsey has a division called Quantum Black. You should look it up. And they have the highest number of data scientists in that division. And they are acquiring Israeli AI startups and so on already in Quantum Black and merging it to create a real AI powerhouse, right? BCG recently launched BCG X, and they already had a BCG Gamma team. So all these consulting firms are embracing AI by creating divisions among themselves to start doing AI driven pilots for their clients. But at the same time, I think what is happening as well is, these companies are looking at being the thought leaders in the AI space as well. So if you just Google McKinsey generative AI, you will see like 4 to 5 articles or 4 to 5 different research reports, white papers by McKinsey on generative AI. So that is already happening. They are getting aggressive mandates from clients saying, array, help us build this generative AI implementation. Can you come and help us with this? And so it's actually going to be a large new revenue stream for them. As far as AI disrupting consulting itself is concerned, I think we are not even anywhere close to this situation, because there is so much of complexity in understanding a business problem, and belief and dependence on AI is going to be difficult for $1 billion company to decide their strategic choices based on what a robot is saying. Will not happen anytime soon.
Thank you, sir, for such amazing book recommendations. I have read The Catalyst, which you mentioned, and it's a really nice book, so I will recommend all of us to read it. It's damn good. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thanks. Tripti, you have a question for Sir?
Hello, sir. Good evening. So, like, considering your statement, data alone cannot make changes and we should learn from it. So, if a person, like, I am interested in marketing and advertising, so how can I effectively, like, embrace and adapt and collaborate with AI to, like, enhance my skills and remain competitive in this industry?
Yeah. So, what I would suggest is figure out what are the current roles in marketing or whichever field you are in, right? In the industry, and see how their way of working is changing through AI. For example, Mid-Journey is a very obvious thing you can think of, but not just that. Do you know about reinforcement learning driven feedback for performance marketing, right? You should know about it, and you should just know the tools that are enabling people to do it, and embrace those tools, and present yourself as someone who is educated in that tool, right? It's as good as saying I know Excel. That is not enough today. In today's world, you have to know Mid-Journey, you have to know prompt engineering, you have to know reinforcement learning based performance marketing, and so on, right? So all I'm saying is figure out the tools that are required to do the same job that has been happening traditionally, but in a much faster and better manner and cheaper manner, like the same role on steroids because of AI. And learn those tools, embrace those tools, try out those tools by creating dummy or sample portfolio projects. You should build your own portfolio of projects, whichever field you are in. And in those projects, you should just demonstrate how you have used those tools or techniques that are the rage in the industry. Even if you don't have an internship in that area, don't wait for someone else to give you that chance. You should just build it yourself using dummy case studies or dummy problem statements.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for the answer.
I think we'll call it a day. We are already at 5:36, exceeded the time. Thank you, Rohit sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule from Singapore and joining us here. And I'm sorry about having overshot the time. So the
All
students were
right.
really
See you,
keen.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, sir. Can I just quickly introduce our RedX team, which I missed in the beginning? Yeah, so Tanmay has helped here. Tanmay, thanks Tanmay for joining. Nishul is also with him. Nishul, are you there? And with the RBA students, we have Jagdish Karatmol. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining.